This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Speaking of what the fuck was that, do you want to actually talk about the Wheel of Time?
I don't know if I remember how.
It has been a while. It has been a while.
It's been a month.
Not quite. Has it been a full month?
Because we didn't do the last week
That's
of
right.
August, and
That's right.
next week it will be the 1st or 2nd of October. So yeah, it's been 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a full 4 weeks of not recording.
Yeah, so I don't know. I actually literally thought that I did my notes already, and like several hours ago I was like, oh yeah, no, I did my notes before our last recording session. I didn't. I refresh myself on what happened in the book. Like, I've been listening to Broken Earth again since we've recorded last. Like, I've
actually gone and listened to the Sanderson books, the ending of this trilogy, since last time we did an episode. So I'm actually having trouble centering myself because I'm like, wait, didn't this already happen? I'm like, no, that's the last 3 books, right? So we haven't even gotten there yet. So yeah, no, the break, it's definitely getting my head back in the game. Wasn't too hard though. We're jumping in at the end of the Elayne secession war. And I do remember kind of where we were in that war, and now we're picking back up and sort of finishing it off. This is the coup d'etat for Elayne in her...
It's not a coup, it's just a victory.
Coup d'etat is a expression that can be used.
I don't think that winning a brute force military victory counts as a coup d'etat when you're the rightful ruler who others were trying to coup against, but sure. You're the newlywed. I'll let you be right on this one. How about that?
I've been using that word wrong for a long time. I thought that meant something totally different.
Oh no.
I just looked it up.
Oh no.
I'm so wrong about what that word means.
Oh no.
I thought it was just a victory. An unexpected victory.
Yeah, no, it's a little more specific than that.
Yeah. I know what a coup is, but I thought a coup d'etat was just like an unexpected victory.
Okay.
And a coup was just like obviously you take over a government, right? But yeah, I didn't realize it was specifically just...
Well, now I'm confused what I've been getting wrong. Let me Google that.
It literally says a coup d'etat or simply a coup,
oh,
right?
Okay.
Like, it's just a French way of saying a coup, right? Like, it's nothing... No, there's no... I thought it sort of made it softer in some way.
Okay, well, Athlon is saying that the coup de grace is the final victory. So that's what this would be.
Oh, that's what I've been trying to say.
There you go. See, you were only a slight syllable off. You knew what you were on about. You just didn't know what you were on about.
Sure. Yeah. Coup de grace. That's what this is.
Yeah. So, magic of editing.
Wow. I didn't realize that those were... Yeah, I had totally got coup de grace and coup d'etat for some reason mixed up in my head.
I mean, I'd never thought about the fact that those are two different phrases, like, consciously. Right. So, like, I'm right there with you. I just happened to not put my foot in my mouth first.
Yeah, those fucking French.
Oh, yeah. The Kyrianan French, definitely. Them and their sun palaces, their sun kings.
So, this is the chapter where Elayne gets 9 out of 10 of the Houses to support her. It starts off with a POV of Elayne getting rescued, right? We've seen that already in the last chapter from Brigida's point of view, though, right?
Yeah, we're doing kind of that like little montage flashback between chapters because Brigida is riding up to the wagon at the end of the last chapter, and then this picks up with Elaine's thoughts leading up to that moment when Brigida jumps up into the wagon, which is it's a very nice way to get back into the podcasting story.
It does help. It's
like last episode, last season.
Yeah. Last time on Wheel of Time Spoilers, Elayne was rescued.
Exactly. It's kind of like with the Winter's Heart thing or Crossroads of Twilight with the cleansing, except it's just like a few paragraphs instead of a whole book. But yeah, let us get into chapter 33, 9 out of 10. With the symbol being the Lion of Andor, because it's the conclusion to the succession crisis, basically. I mean, it's 9 out of 10. It's not 10 out of 10. So technically, there's still more to go with.
Technically, there's one, yeah.
But this is a really big, like, the tide has turned and is flowing back out to sea kind of moment.
Right, because it was 6, 6, and 6 going into this, right? And so there were, basically 6 undecided, 6 for Aramilla, and 6 on her side.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, she keeps maintains her 6. And what does she get?
She adds 3.
Adds 3. And those are the 3 that were on Aramilla's side, right?
Yes, 3 defect from Aramilla's side. And the other 3 stay defiant because they were too committed to the cause to back out.
Right. They were the ones who were actually leading the cause. Right, so then that's 9 out of 10. So the other 6 that aren't involved
are the ones that are approaching.
Yeah, and they are unaffiliated, right?
Yeah, and when they show up, they ask Elayne to make a pitch for why they should join, and all it takes is one of them to agree. More of them than that agree, and that's where you really get the coup de grace. But like, this is what shifts the tide from like Lagrangian balance to like, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay on the losing side, or are you going to shift to the winning side?
Right. Because at this point there are 2 sides and then the undecided, and she decimates one side. So like, what do you like?
Yeah, and then the undecided are like, well, shit. Now the numbers have gone against us, and we can't remain undecided effectively. Mm-hmm. So,
but we'll also never be quite as trusted as if we'd stepped up and been on her side before.
Well, the part where they were undecided because of the whole Morghese thing is less skeevy than the part where they were with Aramilla laying siege, right? Like, the 6 who were off to the side are like, it's different. It's not the same as Aramilla and Elenia and Nayan.
And we really can't blame Morghese for them being off to the side, I think.
No.
Ravine.
Yeah, and that's part of why it's easy for Elayne to be like, look, shit went down. It was bad. We're turning a new page with a new ruler. Like, give me a chance. And that's enough of a pitch for a few of that undecided 6 to be like, all right, fine. The numbers are going this way. Dylan wants it. Cool. But yeah, for now, before we get to all that, we have to have a pretty action-packed battle sequence with a lot of Elayne being decisive. So, I'll read us in.
My babies!
The Dark Friends had taken no chances with Elayne. Aside from shielding her, Tamila had taken seemingly malicious pleasure in tying her in a tight knot with her head between her knees. Her muscles already ached from the cramped position. The gag, a dirty piece of rag with a vile, oily taste, tied so tightly that it dug into the corners of her mouth, had been meant to keep her from shouting for help at the gates. Not that she would have. All that would have done was sentence the men guarding the gates to death. She could feel the 6 Black Sisters holding Saidar until they were through the gate. But the blindfold had been an unnecessary touch. She thought they wanted to add to her sense of helplessness, yet she refused to feel helpless. After all, she was perfectly safe until her babies were born, and so were her babies. Min had said so. She knew she was in a wagon or cart by the sound of harness and the feel of rough boards beneath her. They had not bothered to pad the floorboards with a blanket. A wagon, she thought. There seemed to be more than one horse pulling it. The wagon box smelled of old hay so strongly that she wanted to sneeze. Her situation seemed hopeless, but Brigida would not fail her. And so she does not. Brigida does not fail her.
The Bond said Brigida was aimed at her target, and Brigida Silverbow never missed. Right? I love that line. Like, she can feel that tension, and it's like, yep, I know she's going to rescue me.
She's like, I'm the focus of Brigida. I'm fine.
But an interesting parallel with Rand, right? This head between her knees, gag stuffed in her mouth. She's in this box. He was never blindfolded, but it didn't matter because it was a dark box.
He was effectively blindfolded by the box, yeah.
Right. The difference is he blew the box up because he could see the inside of the box. She can't do that.
Right. But yeah, the Black Sisters do really have a malicious desire to put people into small, knotted up packages and transport them to their dark, nefarious fortress of doom or whatever.
Yeah, I always enjoy the parallels between Rand and Egwene, right? It seems that... Egwene.
This is Elayne.
Oh, no, you're right. This is Elayne.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because Egwene goes through a lot of the parallel and yeah, okay.
No, both his old love and his new love both get kind of similarly stuffed into boxes.
Right.
Yeah, Egwene goes through it a lot more in a Rand-like pattern with the in and out, getting beaten and then shoved back in.
This is so brief that it's really more like Elayne gets a chance to empathize with Rand without actually dealing with the torture long term in a way that, like,
yeah, it's more like what Min went through. during the Demise Wells sequence. Like, Min got boxed up, but just kind of off to the side for a minute, and I think she was kept less confined because they couldn't torture Rand with knowing she was in a box, I guess. I don't think she got boxed and beaten the same way.
No. Athlon says she gets a try before you buy box. Let's buy.
Ooh.
I'm not gonna buy this. That was good. I like that. That made me laugh.
And so she feels Brigida not just focused, but also leap ahead, right? She was behind in the city, and then suddenly the Bond jumps up in front, and she's like, okay, here we go. That's where the attack is going to happen.
Right. Like, clearly they're laying an ambush. They know where, like, Brigida... And this whole thing that, like, Brigida with the warder, it's very hard to capture an Aes Sedai if the warder knows where they are, right? You can't, like, sneak them away.
Yeah. It's good she didn't take the warders into the building, because then she wouldn't have Brigida outside to rescue her.
And in a lot of ways, this is exactly how Rand was rescued, right?
Because of Alanna.
Alanna tracked him using the warder bond, and they teleported in. Or, well, I think Perrin just caught up.
Yeah, they just caught up, but they still knew what direction to go in pretty...
Right.
Like, it helped to know...
And Taim gated in. Demise Wells, right? Like, so... Which was always... How did Taim know where to go? That's always an interesting little fact.
I do wonder.
You do wonder. We never really get a definite answer to that.
It's because he's Demandred.
At that point, yes. I believe entirely through the Lord of Chaos, he's Demandred.
Yeah, totally.
Like, after reading it, and like, yeah, I believe that during that book, Jordan made him Demandred. The so-called Aiel is the one thing that just really... It's such a... Nobody...
No one else says that.
No one else. No one else says that in Forsaken. Yeah. I don't care if you hang around the Forsaken, you don't pick up that little...
Nope.
No.
You don't. You just don't.
You don't. So there's no excuse for that other than being Demandred. So that's my big waving red flag for that. You know, beside the fact that, like, obviously he can't be Demandred because Vanon's Demandred.
Well, yeah, but that's a patch on the board that was made.
So there's this, like, Elayne... And her attitude towards men dying for her bothers me.
Yeah.
Like, she wanted to weep for them. They deserve someone to weep for them. They were dying for her. Sadness for them welled up in her again. No guilt, though.
No, that was for Vandene and Saritha, though. At least that's how I thought that the guilt was about Vandene and Saritha because of...
Yes, I think it's for everybody. It's for all... There's no guilt for any of these deaths, right? Because none of this would have basically... She cannot let the Dark Friends go free. And whoever has to die to make sure they don't go free is justified in her mind. All of these men dying, Vandene and Saritha dying, right? Like, she's like, the only other choice I could have made that would have prevented this, which is a total bullshit, by the way. The only other choice she could have made to prevent all of this is by letting the Dark Friends go free.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really lumped the Aes Sedai in with the men who are dying. I kind of seen those as, like, separate thoughts in her head. But, like, you're right. They aren't separate thoughts. They're all blended together. She has no guilt for the hundreds of men that she's getting killed, because that's what it takes to chase down Dark Friends. And, I mean...
Follow that with the immediate thought of there had been no way to anticipate the arrival of others or that strange weapon Asni had.
Actually, there were.
There were absolutely. You could have taken total precautions. People were saying you were being reckless when you were walking into the situation. Everybody was urging caution.
Yeah.
And you took Min's viewing as I will be safe, and instead This is why I get so angry at Elayne during this storyline. Like, this is the kind of stuff that makes me go, yes, she is a bit of a spoiled brat in this particular instance.
I think this is beyond being a spoiled brat. I think that that's not a hefty enough critique.
Sure, yeah, reckless in a way that with other people's lives, right? That just, like, feels... Just because you and your babies are going to be okay, which is not even that guaranteed, because they're going to be born okay. That doesn't mean they're going to survive or that you will be okay, right? Like,
No, I just looked up in a few pages. We get the butcher's bill, and it's as maybe many as 500 or 600 people dead in a few minutes,
and twice that many injured. So another 1,000 injuries,
and she has no guilt at all for rushing in recklessly against the advice of all of her advisors that, like, even we as readers can say, like, but you had a better better way. There were better ways to. Yeah, I don't think being a spoiled brat is a sufficiently weighty critique.
It's not the right critique, right? It's not, but that's why people call her that, right? Is this idea of just,
well, those people need to dig deeper and pick up a fucking thesaurus. Like, if you're gonna critique someone, like, use the right words.
Yeah.
But like, no, that is very like, if she was having a moment in there going, oh shit, oh, I need to really do risk assessment better, this was a fuck up, this would be a very different.
Exactly.
This would be very different. Because, like,
if at this moment she said, oh my God, just because I have this viewing doesn't mean that other people are safe, or that, you know, like, if from this moment on there'd been a change, I could have really been much happier with her. And this is where, I mean, and we'll get into this, but Brandon Sanderson, I think, fundamentally missed the evolution of some of the characters in this book. Specifically in this book, right? I think that a lot of these characters should have had a realization at this point. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe, and, you know, obviously she didn't, so maybe Jordan forgot about it too. But, like, it would have been really nice to see her evolve in Sanderson's books instead of just sort of continue this mistake, right? Of, oh, I'll be fine.
I mean, it honestly feels like this is the moment when that gets missed. This should have been the moment when that turnaround happened, rather than when she gets stabbed in the side, and like that's when she starts behaving differently. This is when that should have happened, because like it does make sense to be reckless when you're a queen trying to deal with like potential dreadlords. There are times when you're gonna make gambles that have high stakes. Like, that's not inherently a bad thing, but you should at least learn from the bad mistakes.
Right. She doesn't.
And that's not what we want, because she has been growing and learning in previous books. And this feels like a missed step.
It does. It really feels like she should be learning from this in a way that she's not. And I don't even know. I can't even say that it bothers me, right? I can't say how it bothers me. It just bothers me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear that. But she gets to win anyway. So the thing I don't like here is the next paragraph. You know, she feels the lightning strike hit nearby, and she goes, you know, oh, it seems like Brigida managed to involve the Windfinders, even though that's unlikely. The time would come when the kin would have to use the power as a weapon, but let them preserve their innocence a little longer. These women are like 5 times your age. What fucking innocence do you have a right to preserve for them? They have killed men with knives and bludgeons and pots of hot oil. Like, what the fuck? It's okay for these men to get annihilated by balefire and ripped to shreds, but these women shouldn't have to engage in the fight, even though they're literally older than the oldest grandma you've ever met. Like, what are we doing?
Terrible strategy. Ugh. If they're going to have to fight in the last battle, get them fighting sooner.
Yeah, what happened to practice? Yeah.
Right?
So that's the part. I'm just like, what innocence do you, not even finished cooking your prefrontal cortex lady, have to preserve for these grandmothers who have lived like 5 different lives, changing out their city of origin and their trade? Like, what are you doing?
And let them do some fighting before Tarmangaiden. Who wants to go into Tarmangaiden not having done any fighting?
Oh, I wanted to preserve your innocence. What?
Again, overbearing helicopter parent. That's
except that
Elayne.
She's still basically a teenager. So where the fuck is that energy coming from?
Yeah, we're really, like, this chapter is not a good for Elayne and, like, her personality.
Not in our eyes, apparently. I mean, I feel like Robert Jordan wrote a badass, like, victory chapter, and we're over here just, like, shredding it.
Tearing it apart, yeah. Well, because it does feel like she fell ass backwards into this, right? She got kidnapped.
She's failing upwards,
She's failing upwards, only because Brigida executes an amazing rescue, and which we saw in the last chapter. Does she even, like, capture these dark friends? And then, you know, she does this strategy of, like, Aramilla does this really dumb thing of emptying out all her camps with the assumption, you know, also this gateway thing also really fucks with her because they get that's how she gets attacked from behind.
Yep. Because typical rich people behavior, they don't actually think that anyone else is as smart or competent as the rest of them.
Yeah. So it's really just like, Brigida saves her from the Dark Friends, and Aramilla is so dumb that she basically hands Elayne the crown.
Yeah, but let's all blame it on Elayne being clever.
Right.
Other people are doing the work, and she gets the crown credit.
Mm-hmm. This very much feels like the end of Game of Thrones TV show, right? Where at the end they give the kingdom to Bran, and you go, okay, like feels like you didn't deserve that, but fine, I guess that's what we're doing, and that's to me Elayne in this situation where it's like you just got lucky. I mean, yeah, she had fewer troops.
No, the Brigida and Charles Guybon and Chanela of it all is really what won the day. Like it's Brigida and Charles Guybon. Like they're the ones that made this happen.
Yeah, it's surrounding yourself with good people.
And in fairness, neither of them want to be queen. Both of them want Elayne to be queen, so it's fine that she gets the crown. But it is. Yeah, she's getting rewarded for things that other people had to clean up.
Exactly. Right. She gets rewarded because other people clean up her mess. I think that's what bothers me the most.
Yeah. But we have a fun moment here where Elayne sniffs in disdain and immediately sneezes because she's in a dusty wagon.
I missed that.
Yeah. Elayne sniffed in disdain.
That's great.
A mistake. Sneezing repeatedly. She climbed down from the wagon. That's what you get for your disdainful sniffs, princess.
That's great. Of course, she thinks about wanting a hot bath. Thank you, Elayne.
Well, yeah, it is Elayne. I mean,
that is well within her personality.
Hey, she didn't get a head trauma this time, so like that's turning her shit around,
Well, yeah, that's something. Yeah, something.
She thinks about wanting Charles Guybon as a third warder. It's like he's cute and competent.
Would love to see more follow up on that.
Totally.
Absolutely.
The queen, who's a green, definitely needs like an arrowhead of warders behind her. She can't be having one or two. She needs 3 minimum. And one of them is the Dragon Reborn. So, like, really, that's not a sustainable. Like, you got to be finding other guys at this point. Charles Guybon, head of the Queen's Guard? Yes. Mm-hmm. And he chose to, like, carry her personal banners into battle. Like, clearly, he's, like, a non-creepy Talonvor. He's just like, no, I actually like being the guard to a powerful monarch. That he's like Gareth Bryn. He's like, no. Yeah. It gives me personal satisfaction to see you safe and doing your thing. Like, I am a guardsman, capital TM. I like that.
Yeah, man. And in the same way that I would have loved to see that warder Aes Sedai relationship evolve, I also really wanted to see Llewellyn and Egwene's evolve. I really, if I would rewrite this, so I was doing a little summary of the next book. There's so many Gawain chapters in the next book. So many. And like
quadruple header. It's a Gawain chapter. We don't need any of this.
Well, the problem is they're spread out. Fuck. I mean, we're just going to have to roll them into the other chapters that they're with. But yeah, I mean, like, the Gawain chapters are awful. They're really bad. And there's a point where he does something, and I can't remember what it is. Oh, when he saves her from the Blood Knives. And he lays dying. And she wakes up. He should have died in her arms in that moment.
Absolutely. That would have catalyzed so much growth for her.
So much growth for her, and then she could have bonded Llewellyn, the Seanchan, who would have actually protected her in the last battle. She would have dealt with the loss beforehand. That is the moment in which I truly believe that Gawain was supposed to die.
Ooh, what if she'd managed to border bond him and it wasn't enough to save him?
That's exactly it, because that's how she saves him. She water bonds him in that moment to give him strength to survive, because she's not a good healer. But what if she water bonds him, it's not enough, he dies anyway. She deals with the after effect of the broken water bond.
Yeah, without any water to show for it. God, that would have been so much better.
And that's it for Gawain. Because he does nothing else after that. He does nothing else of any importance after that other than go get killed. Go get killed. He puts on the blood knife rings, is an idiot for a while, attacks Demandred, and is killed.
We could have had some other clever youngling trying to beat Gawain's record do that. That would have been fine.
Yeah. But dying to save the Amerlin seat would have been a great redemption moment for him, for all the other stuff that's gone on.
God, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
God, anyway.
Or at least come back and do something in this moment. Like, Gawain would have loved to see him show up for Elayne as well. That would have been another perfectly valid thing to do with him.
That would have been neat if he'd shown up and just thrown a sword through the air, Melar style, right at the last minute.
Yeah, totally.
Hi, sister. Good to see you. I thought I'd come home and interrupt an assassination attempt while I do it. That would have been fun. But no, instead he pouts.
For a lot of pages. A lot of pages.
Like, I'm all for introspection,
Brandon.
but it's a lot.
Yeah. All of those chapters should have been Perrin's brooding. Let's be honest. just replace Gawain with Perrin and have the brooding be the same. You'd be fine.
Oh my god. That's so true. But for now, we will return to the road where we have our bound Aes Sedai and the warders of the woman who died, who are freaking out in a different way. And we're examining our prisoners now.
Asni's dead. She's the one who had the pain weapon, right? Tamila, Phaleon, and Cheyenne are bound.
Right, 2 Aes Sedai and then Cheyenne. That's it. That's what it is. And they are very surprised that Elayne was able to get rescued. Like, how could this happen? And far from, being interested in actual information, they start arguing about which of them should be deferring to the other, which I'm like, Are you really that petty? Or is this you trying to throw Elayne off from some scheme you're already cooking up? Like, this is amazing. This is amazingly petty.
I think they're really that petty. They basically have a death sentence over their head at this point. They're all sentenced to death. So what the fuck are they arguing about?
And it is kind of a parallel to what happens with Elayne and Aramilla, like in just a few pages, which they're not under a death sentence, but it's a similar thing where like they immediately start turning on each other, which I feel like is Robert Jordan sort of hitting us over the head with like dark friends and petty people are basically the same thing. And like you need teamwork. And if you're not the kind of person who wants to do teamwork, then you're probably on the wrong side.
Well, why does the Dark One pick Forsaken? What's the one thing he looks for in the Forsaken that we know?
Selfishness. Yeah. But it's really like he is driving home the point that you're on the wrong side if you can't be a graceful loser and work with your teammates to sort out the problems. Like if you turn on each other, you're not doing it right. That's his thesis.
According to Robert Jordan, all billionaires are dark friends.
I don't disagree. Oh, I like what Buji said in chat. Gawain has main character syndrome. Perrin has I'm not the main character syndrome.
Oh, God. Yeah, right? Could you please just be the main character already, Perrin?
Oh, that's
just accept
accurate.
It and move
on? Oh, that's accurate. Yeah, anyway, okay, back to the battle. We're sticking on the battle.
Yeah, so we never get an answer about whether or not the warders are dark friends. I assume they're either killed or kill themselves as part of this. Like, we never get a follow-up on that.
I know at some point there's a contingent of Death Rage warders that do get sent to the front lines in the last battle, but I think that's in the aftermath of the White Tower battle.
It is.
One hopes that something similar happened with these guys, but yeah, we never actually get follow-up. And then, the next thing that Elayne thinks is like, well, we really can't afford to go have a pitched battle with Aramilla. That would be bad. And then, like, that's what they have to do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I guess in the last chapter, there was a fourth man who was a wagon driver who charged the army. He appears to be the fourth warder.
Yeah, I bet he died in the
battle
initial blast.
Yeah.
That killed her because they were both up on front of the wagon.
Right. So, Bridget tells Chanel that all will be lost if the Windfinders do not aid. Chanel agrees, and lightning strikes the woman holding the black fluted rod. The others are stunned. The wagon driver charges the army, waving his sword.
Oh, okay. So he dies in his death rage.
Yes, one would assume that he then charges after she's killed.
Right, and he's like, I'll take down all 10,000 of these people my own self.
Right, which one would assume results in him being cut to pieces relatively quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
So Elayne receives the news from Brigida that Aramilla's camps have all been emptied out, and even Aramilla's not there. And she says, wait, we have military intelligence from Mrs. Harfor that says that when she leaves the camp marching to the city, that means that she thinks she's going to win. So if we can actually go turn that battle around, I could capture that bitch and end this war once and for all. Like, all chips are on. We are all in on this gambling that we're doing right now.
And she says basically two things. One, if she's breached the gates and we're too late, well, then we're going to fight in the city, right? And numbers don't matter as much in those sorts of fights, so we have a chance. If she hasn't breached the gates, that's the better situation because we can crush her between the gates, the people who are defending the gates, and our armies, and they won't have room to move, which is exactly what ends up happening, right? Like that is...
Yeah, Dylan has managed to keep the gates closed because Dylan is a badass.
Right. And then there's this, remember the information from Mr. Harfor. She says Aramilla and the others intend to be the first party to ride into Camelin. That bit of information tells her that they are going to be at the Farmading Gate, which is that they call the Farmading Gate because it's the gate that leads to Farmading. Yes. Farmading, right, yes. It's not like, I was confused. I was like, wait, why are we going to Farmading? Right, what the fuck? Right. Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. So that's like, she knows where they are because of that bit of information. So she knows if she can attack, she has a chance of capturing them. Yeah. And this is where we get the news that 500 or 600 dead, perhaps a few more, twice as many wounded one way or another. So that leaves her with 10,000 troops. So she probably had about 11, maybe 12,000 troops going into this attack.
Yeah.
And around 500 are dead and around 1,000 are injured beyond being combat ready.
Yeah. But she's like, with the power of gateways and surprise, this is worth it anyway, despite the butcher's bill. And Brigida has this great part where she foreshadows something that's going to happen later. And she says, fine, we can go, but you will ride surrounded by your bodyguard. This isn't some fool story with a queen carrying her banner into battle to lead her troops. I know one of your ancestors did that, but you're not her, and you don't have a broken army to rally. Elayne is going to literally swing a sword at a Trolloc while 9 months pregnant during the last battle. That moment is going to happen, and it's a total foreshadowed right here. Because Brigida's like, you don't have a broken army to rally. That's what she does. She is riding a horse 9 months pregnant, already a bad call, and then her army is so broken that she literally swings a sword at a Trolloc. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen in like 4 months in book time.
Less than, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, book time gets real weird in book 14, the last book.
Well, it's at near the end of her last trimester when she's currently in her second trimester. So it's a ways off in terms of Elaine's pregnancy timeline, which is the only one that matters in this particular case.
Yeah. Well, I'm still amazed that he kept the moon cycles during the whole fucking first 11 books.
And that's incredible.
Like, kept them accurate.
That's
incredible.
That's wild. Oh, that reminds me. I listened to an interview with Michael Livingston the other day on a new book about his new book coming out. It had nothing to do with Wheel of Time. And I was just like, it's a podcast I listened to called The New Books Network, where they like interview people who did scholarly works. And he has a new book coming out that's like relocating some famous battle. I already forget because it was a week ago I listened to it. But it was so funny just like listening to Michael Livingston like in his full academic military historian mode, because I've never listen to any of his other stuff. I just know him from WotCon. It's just like, he's not making a single like weird Wheel of Time reference or anything. This is like full Dr. Livingston. It was very cool. Speaking of detailed people that know all the things.
Isn't Dr. Livingston like some fictional name?
Yeah, like Dr. Livingston, I presume.
Yeah. What is that from? Is that Sherlock Holmes?
No, I don't think so. It's something mid-century. I think it's a book. It's about a guy wandering around in Africa. So it's definitely not Scotland Yard, whatever.
Let's see. Google will tell me. Dr. Livingston, I presume, is a 1968 song by the English rock band The Moody Blues.
And it's about an incident in actual life?
Primarily written about Dr. David Livingstone.
An anthropologist?
He was a Scottish missionary and explorer in Central Africa.
Fucking missionaries.
Yep.
Thank you, chat.
He's famous for a search of the sources of the Nile River and his encounter with Henry Stanley.
Oh, Henry Morgan Stanley, the explorer who shot his way through Africa. Yes, that fucking guy.
That's the guy who said the phrase,
yes.
Dr. Livingston.
He's the one who actually uttered the phrase. Because, yeah, dude had been basically lost off the map off and on for years, as I recall. This was in the Behind the Bastards episode about Stanley. There was a little, 10-minute digression about, that time that he uttered the immortal line.
That was a tangent.
Yeah, from moon cycles to Michael Livingston to Dr. Livingston, I presume. Names are fun, okay? We started this episode with a digression about names, which will be at the end of the episode. But, names are fun. Names are complicated.
That was a tangent, I presume.
All right, so they reorganize the sea folk and the gateway and the military, and they swing around to go attack Aramilla's people. The gates are closed. It makes her happy.
And break all rules of gateways.
It's a climactic moment for battle reasons. Plot, We're doing this for plot reasons.
Chanel refused to change the gateway until Elayne agreed that this time they would need to provide transport only and sealed the agreement with both them kissing their fingers and pressing blah, 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 blah. Only then did the gateway dwindle to a vertical slash and widen again into a 100-pace wide view of Camelin in from the south. You just got there!
Holding a gateway teaches you the area faster, and it's been...
Nice retcon.
Half an hour?
I'm sorry.
Is half an hour
Then
long?
why the fuck at Dumai's Wells did they have to stay there for such a long time? Why they gatewayed in? Why couldn't they immediately gateway out?
Because they didn't hold the gateway. That's the thing, is Chanela held the gateway open that whole time, whereas in Dumai's Wells, they popped in and out. They didn't hold the gateway that whole time. They jumped in, closed the gateway.
I thought it was just holding the power. Not holding a gateway open. I thought because later on, Rand does this thing where he says, "Oh, if you gateway in, well, first of all, he gateways into fight Ravine, right? And then he does a short gateway. He's like, you can gateway from place to place, right?
Yeah,
if it's a short hop.
Distance, blah, blah, blah.
And then later he hacks that to do the short hop, and then once you've made a gateway anywhere, then you know the place and you can make a gateway out of there. So that seems to be this mechanic of once you've made a gateway to somewhere, you can always immediately gateway out of there.
Yeah, you learn a place when you gateway to. So yeah, the Dumai's Wells thing is like...
It contradicts Dumai's Wells, right? Like the fact that they could, he's like, oh, we'll have to stay here for hours until they can learn the location and gateway out of here.
Yeah, Rand was just straight up wrong, and Tamandred didn't correct him, apparently.
Or the rules changed at some point in the writing.
But the rules changed is the simple explanation. But if we have to keep it in world, then Rand was just wrong, and Tamandred was like, amateur. But yeah, I like it when the massively OP thing has really annoying rules rather than cute little loopholes. The loopholes,
yes.
They're already so OP. Don't put loopholes in them.
They're so OP. That's the one thing that bothers me most, I think, about the last battle is like, just use skimming.
Yeah.
Like all you have to do here is say, Chanel refused to change the gateway. This time did the gateway dwindle to a vertical silver slash and widen again into a skimming platform.
Well, that wouldn't work for an army of 10,000 people.
No, it wouldn't.
But again, they're OP. Deal with the fact that they're not going to be perfect.
Or here's another way you deal with it. You have everybody go back through the gateway into Camelin and then gateway back out to the location, right? Because you can form a gateway from Camelin where the initial gateway comes from.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe just go back into the city you're defending.
Yes. And then gateway out from there.
Yeah. You could drop off all the wounded, everyone who shit their pants because they were terrified. Like, what you do anyway.
I'm just saying it would have been a little bit. Yeah, she shouldn't have closed the gateway and opened up a new one on the spot. To me, that feels wrong. But the rules of gateways change from here on out. Yeah. Is really all I want to say. Like, I want to point out that there was this rule that you had to be in a location. You had to know the location. Holding the power may have sped that up a little bit, but it didn't just override.
Yeah.
And opening gateway into a place didn't immediately teach you how to get out of it.
Yeah, the rules are contradictory and come on board at different times. And it's really starting to show at this point. That little error that was like not a big deal a few books ago, like we've been going long enough that now the error is accumulating and we have drift.
Yeah, gateway magic is not the same as it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. So we have a funny moment here where Brigida is like, well, we're going to have to be as lucky as Matt Cawthon. And Elayne's like, that is a nonsense statement. And Brigida says, do you realize the books that you're in? And Elayne says, absolutely not. I am not in a book. And Brigida says, okay, well, that's nice. And they move on. But it's really funny because Brigida's like, don't you ever hang out with Matt when he's dicing? Elayne's like, why on earth would I do that? Brigida's like, well, that's your problem.
That calls back to when Egwene is telling Nynaeve and Elayne, when you're looking for the Bowl of the Winds, use Matt.
Literally.
And they refuse to acknowledge that. And then obviously he finds the bowl for them in 2 or 3 different ways, right? All in the same day.
Yeah, she's got plenty of evidence to know he's lucky.
Yeah. Just refuses to admit it and refuses to think that there's anything about it. So
a man couldn't have talents and attributes that us girls couldn't have. God. Yep.
The moons, the fox, the triple keys, and the hammer.
Yeah, so Elayne watches the battle go in, just initiate. She hopes that she's not consigning those men to their deaths for nothing. So say we all. Yeah, everyone is yelling and killing, Elayne and Brigida both stand on their horses to see what's up.
And this is where we have the crossbow, the effective crossbow.
Yeah.
Do they have... I couldn't figure out if they have the crank that Matt has.
No.
Matt hasn't introduced the fancy crank. No. So this is just more traditional crossbowmen, but there's enough ranks. Yeah. This way, having enough ranks, they're able to fire rapidly enough that they're not firing as rapidly as Matt does. So they have numbers. They have 10,000 troops.
This is the pre-Matt warfare, right? It's still quite effective. Crossbows have always been a very effective weapon when you have enough people. What Matt is doing is throwing gasoline on a raging fire with those cranks.
And I do think that these people who have crossbows are probably the half-trained boys and old men that...
Because it takes a lot less training.
A lot less training.
Yeah, if all of you are firing together, it's a wall of death that's coming in waves, and you don't have to hit someone directly. You just have to...
You don't really have to aim, yeah.
And also, we get the point here that, like, the bodies are packed... The people are packed so tightly in the streets that there's literally not room for the dead to fall down, which is horrifying.
Bringing Game of Thrones up again, right? The Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah.
When that was that whole scene where, that a lot of people really gave people a lot of fright, where everybody's packed in so tight and Jon Snow is literally suffocating in the mass of bodies and he can't move. Yeah. It's such a crazy. So that scene, the claustrophobic, yeah.
Catastrophic. No, claustrophobic. That's the word I meant. Catastrophically claustrophobic.
Yes, it's both. But that's what I imagine here is that group of people where they're just you can't even swing a sword. And so there's death raining down on you from above. And at some point, after half an hour of that, which is a good long time, people started surrendering.
Well, actually, to circle back to the tangent about Dr. Michael Livingston, that was the battle that he was talking about, that he was relocating, was a famous battle, which I'm so annoyed I'm forgetting about it. It's the Battle of Agincourt. And it was a Timothée Chalamet movie came out a couple years ago about it. And it's the way the battle goes down is all the plate armored guys get tricked into running down into a muddy field, and then they just get absolutely stomped by the smaller, more nimble force because they're stuck in the mud and are like, it's not quite Tolkien levels of like the drowned swamps of men, but like it's in that same spirit of like, if you can get people like incapable of using their own weaponry, well, now it's a completely different battle. It doesn't matter how well armored you are if you're knee deep in the mud and can't move.
And you've got people with bows and arrows just raining death on you. Yeah.
Right. And these guys, they're peas in a pod sardined into the city streets. And like people are falling down from above and just sort of getting like stabbed on top. It's like crowd surfing, but like murderous crowd surfing. And like the body literally can't even slip down to the ground because it's just like, it's horrifying. And half an hour, hell of a sprint for these people to go through.
A lot of people die in half an hour. Yeah.
And then, once people start screaming for quarter, for mercy, for the white flag, like it spreads like wildfire because that is a sustained burst of horror to put yourself through.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure some people who were calling for quarter were killed, right?
Oh, like, definitely.
That's you see that in, I think Saving Private Ryan did a really good version of that when they finally breach the beach and all these people come out and the Germans surrender and the Americans just shoot them, right? Like they shoot a couple of them because they're like still high on adrenaline, pissed, and like it's a total war crime, right?
Yeah, but it's because it happens. That's why it's been defined as a war crime.
Exactly.
and Robert Jordan even mentions it here. Like they are risking death in the hopes of life by putting up their swords and taking off their helmets and going into that defensive posture. They're risking being killed by someone who has not yet registered what they're seeing and might swing before their brain catches up to what they're seeing.
And a funny bit of trivia from Saving Private Ryan, but if you translate what the guy says, and this is something I've heard, he basically says, "Oh, I'm a prisoner. They just made me cook. I'm innocent," right? Like I'm not German, and then they shoot him down anyway, right? Because they don't understand it.
And it doesn't matter. You're killing everyone who's been trying to kill you, and
exactly.
Your brain is operating several heartbeats behind your trigger finger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not good to be in close quarters combat, I would say. Doing that sort of violence is just bad for everyone. It's not a good time.
And stopping, right? There's so much trust on stopping. Is like, oh, don't shoot me. I give up. Do you? Or are you trying to trick me?
Mm-hmm.
And what if I turn away from you and we're not in a good enough battle? You pick up your sword again and start fighting again, right? Like, it's much safer to just kill you and move on until there's enough people surrendering.
Right. And something interesting I learned, again, from that interview with Michael Livingston is that most people who die in battle die at the end. Like, once they've broken, like, a lot of the deaths happen after you've given up and you're turning to run away and you're being routed and you're attempting to extricate yourself from the battle. That's where most of the deaths actually happen. So again, it's like, it's a war crime because it happens so often.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and in this case, I think that just the slaughter that happens for the half an hour, that's probably where most of the deaths were happening at this point.
Oh, yeah. No, it's bad. A lot of people die. But also, everyone who doesn't die is able to be folded into Elayne's army. So, that's another good reason to be able to stop as quickly as possible, because those are going to be your allies tomorrow if the higher ups
during Tarmangaiden
change the payroll the right way. Then these guys are going to be your colleagues.
Well, and a lot of these people are mercenaries too. So a lot of these people have fought together, right? So they don't want to fight. And then there's the whole Perrin argument of like everyone who dies is one last sword in Tarmangaiden.
Yeah.
And part of all these books, right? All of this stuff leading up to the last battle is uniting the world under our main characters so they can lead the fight against the Dark One, right? And so for me, all of this War of Secession, Perrin's Slog, like all of that stuff that we had to get through is all about uniting armies underneath our characters who are on Rand's side.
Yeah, and also a lot of what they're dealing with is undoing Darkfriend plots that very specifically were pitching men against men. Like, that's so often what the Darkfriend near to our main good character was doing, was prompting conflict that would take out swords from the ultimate conflict.
But in a lot of ways, those conflicts are the reason that our characters are rising to power. If the institutions weren't undermined, if the people who were leading them weren't kidnapped, assassinated, removed, then there would not be, our characters would have to be bad people to take over those countries because they'd have to murder the existing rulers. But the Forsaken have already done that, right? Why does Rand get to take over, become King of Ilion? Because he kills Samael.
Disposes
of. Why does he get to take over? Why does Caemlyn, available for Elayne? Because of Ravine.
No, the Dark One's influence is the seeds of his own defeat. I mean, that is a theme that is repeated many times.
Why is Egwene the Amyrlin seat? Because the Dark One split the tower and undermined it and destroyed the existing. That's why Suan isn't the Amyrlin seat right now. But Egwene's better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there's this whole thing about how none of our characters would have risen to power if the Dark One wasn't trying to undermine society. And then our characters came in and said, okay, we're going to put that back together just under me.
Yeah. All right, so now the battle's over and bring forth the prisoners. Aramilla, Naeon, and Elayne. These are the three who will never come to Elayne's side. They're the point of the spear for being on Aramilla's side. They're the head of the snake. All right there.
And at this point, she's going to tax them into oblivion to repay.
Not even taxing. She's fining them.
Yeah.
She's like, you have to pay for the whole war, knowing full well that they've already double mortgaged on their properties.
Is there a difference between government taxes and government fines?
Yeah, taxes happen on a regular schedule. Fines happen sort of more as a one-off. I'm being pedantic.
I know. Yes. But when you pass a law to have a scheduled repayment of fines, that kind of feels like that. Anyway, never
mind. Look, taxation is a whole other can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
But she also internally realizes, like, she is being spiteful and malicious with this. Like, she is consigning them to bankruptcy and destitution, knowing full well that she doesn't have to. She's just like, I'm going to because fuck you, that's why. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's on par for the government, right? Because fuck you, that's why?
A little bit. It's been interesting to look at the countries where we have taken that attitude after a war and how badly off they are.
All right. I want to escape back into the much more pleasant
the fancy
fantasy.
world.
Look, I love period violence from like the pre-gunpowder days. Okay, let's just nothing explodey.
So we get the 3 sort of half unaffiliated.
Oh, they're affiliated. They were just not affiliated as hard.
Right. So, sorry, I should say Baron, Anshar, and Kareen.
Yes, and Karand is the one where it was the weird lecherous old guy with the like super traumatized granddaughter, and he happened to suffer a seizure that very morning by very lucky coincidence that I'm sure his creepy ass granddaughter had nothing to do with at all.
No, don't we get a POV where she's like pretending to be stupid, but then she's like really actually very smart? And
that was with Aramilla. It was through Aramilla's POV, but the fact that
I thought we actually got Sylvase's POV for a second in that chapter.
So no, we don't.
Okay,
but it's very convenient, and so she's able to very easily say, "I'm switching allegiance." Like Elayne is able to welcome her warmly because she actually is literally unaffiliated because of her grandfather's death. And then the other 2 had not published irrevocable commitment to Aramilla, so they're able to switch sides with minimal loss of face. But Elayne is still like more skeptical of them than of Sylvase, because Sylvase is genuinely a new player in a way that the other 2 aren't.
Right. The other 2 changed their minds. Sylvase killed the man who supported her. Yeah.
And I mean, she does, it's not explicitly said, but like the man was terrible to her and he died at the most convenient time. Like that woman absolutely caused him to have a seizure or whatever.
And this is immediately followed by her asking to be able to torture the other 2 for information.
I swear I'm trustworthy. Give them to me. My secretary will convince them.
Master Lunault.
Yeah, who like apparently uses like binding cords to fuck people up. So I feel like this is some sort of like...
Ooh, that's some real fucked up torture.
Like weird, like fucked up... Like I don't even know like what you call that, but like it's bad. Like that's not just like, I'll rip out your fingernails. It's like there's some sort of weird like kinky shit going on. Like I don't know, but like
wasn't there that James Bond movie that where he gets tortured with ropes?
I don't know.
Modern era.
I have not kept up with the 007 franchise.
What you don't enjoy a misogynistic action packed?
You seen one, you seen them
series?
all.
Yeah.
I was forced to watch Goldfinger once on like a communal bus ride. And I was like, all right, cool. So that's Old Gins. And I think I saw Octopussy too. And then just because I was kind of on a Daniel Craig kick for a minute, I watched one of the Daniel Craig ones because I was just like, oh, I wonder like how this compares to Goldfinger. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Anyway.
Okay. Interesting. Jack Lunault is a dark friend.
Obviously,
the one who enjoys
no
torture,
one who likes to torture people with ropes and is fine applying it to children is not a dark friend.
And he's the one who carries the messages from Melar and the Black Aja sisters and plans their escape.
Oh yeah, and that puts I remember, and then Elayne thinks a little bit like, oh, Sylvase, I gotta side eye your resume a little bit harder because you had a fuckface in your staff. Was that an accident or was that because you're a fuckface?
So yeah, he's the guy who basically frees them and leads to the whole Elayne plot being kidnapped again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's bad dude. He's bad dude, and I don't know if we ever get a good answer on why Sylvase is associated with him. Like, is she a dark friend or does she just like bad people? Like, we don't ever get a good answer to that. I'm inclined towards the latter, but
I mean, up to this point, he is with Aramilla, right? Jack Lanquat is with Aramilla. She uses him to keep Lady Neon under control. It's only after Elayne's victory, Sylvase takes him on. He is employed. Crossroads of Twilight, chapter...
I always assumed he was employed by her house and she was just loaning him to Aramilla. That was my assumption, but I guess that was just an assumption. Because, like, why would she have access to him in the aftermath of Aramilla getting captured? Why not someone else? Why is he not his own free man? I just assumed he was on loan from the Sylvase's house.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's a Terrabonner who's a specialist in torturer. What is he doing with Aramilla in Crossroads of Twilight, chapter 15? Seems to be with her. Right?
Yeah, I just assumed that he was on loan from House Care, and...
I mean, he's a Terrabonner. Andoran.
Yeah, Yeah, he's just some fucking nasty mercenary dude that just gets hired by nasty royal houses, or noble houses, I guess.
I kind of assume he's a Darkfriend plant in the Aramilla camp, right?
I always was asking, like, is there a Darkfriend anywhere in this? Like, someone's got to be, like, keeping this going from a Darkfriendy perspective, because we don't know of any Darkfriends in the leadership. So, yeah, maybe he was there mostly to just watch and be the eyes on the ground. So that way, like, intelligence could get shuttled appropriately.
And we don't really have a good reason for why Aramilla was rebelling. She's this sort of weird...
Right.
You know, self-involved
She just
twit.
wants the money, but, like, that's a bad reason to launch a rebellion.
Right. It really does seem like there's something else going on in her camp, and I think that this guy might be part of it, but there's so little information about her rebel camp. But it's hard not to imagine that there's not some Darkfriend Forsaken influence.
And yet, weirdly, Sylvase seems to be untainted by it in the long run. She doesn't end up coming out of the woodwork as, like, a bad person or, like, betraying the cause or anything. So it's very, like, what do we have to grab onto? There's something here, but, like, this guy clearly doesn't have the ear of anyone. He's not, like, whispering in their ear like an advisor. He's just a torturer in the background. Like, what's going on?
And I think this is just, you know, in the same way that Elayne employed Mellar for a while, I think Sylvase employs this guy for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, that's weird. It's interesting how he seems to be almost a very important linchpin, but then he's sort of just a middling level linchpin that doesn't really do a lot, but he does something.
And yeah, we see Sylvase in a couple of crowds of noble women, but she doesn't really do anything important after this.
No, she really felt like a lost opportunity. I was so excited to see what was going to happen with her, and then Sanderson was like, Sylvase who?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. She's one of those characters who definitely fell off the radar.
Big time. She was such an interesting, like, dark version of Elayne, right? Or something, like an interesting little foil that could have, like, come out of the woodwork to, like, be, you know, Dylan 3.0 or something. But instead, she just sort of drifted off.
Yeah, I could have really seen her being the more ruthless part of Elaine's rule, right? Like...
Yeah, she needs someone ruthless, and that's who she is on the council or whatever. And
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to imagine that happens in the Fourth Age. That Sylvase becomes a trusted advisor because she is the ruthless one. I'm just going to imagine that that's how their careers go in the future.
But I do think it's really important that we note that Master Lunault is a Darkfriend and is put in a position of torturing people for information, and when they give him Darkfriends to torture, he becomes their ally. And that's why why the Darkfriends are freed and how Elayne gets captured is because of this asshole.
Well, stabbed, not captured, but yes.
Well, yes, yeah. I mean, Mellar has her captured. He's got a knife to her throat until
for like 5 minutes, but...
until Brigida shoots him.
We're talking about the jailbreak escape, right?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're conflating a couple of different instances. Because there's the time that she goes down into the dungeon and pretends to be a Forsaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, that time, she just gets stabbed. Brigida, like... shows up later. I think Matt and Brigida show up together is what that one is. Because Brigida feels Elayne get freaked out and they go running back, and then like Mellar didn't take her. Mellar runs away. He like stabs her and then fucking bounces. And that's part of why he's able to come back and do the whole beheading Brigida thing later, is because he escapes.
Got it. Okay. But that's not the betrayal here. That he wasn't put on the question. That's only later when they're captured.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that he does get deployed to torture them later. Like, Sylvase offers to take custody of them now.
Yes.
And Elayne says no, but I think she does allow torturer dude to interact with them in her dungeons, I think. I don't know. I was sort of sleeping when I last listened to this part of the next book.
Let me do a quick search. Okay, so I am mixing up two things, right? Because there's the moment when Mellar, Shaheen, basically all these people who she's captured in this chapter are freed.
Yeah, and Lunault is part of that happening.
Yes, but he is killed in the escape.
Yes, he does not make it. Mellar makes it out, but Lunault doesn't.
Mellar makes it out. Mellar, Shaheen, Marilyn, and Elayne escape. Chesmal, Eldrith, Tamael, and Lunault. Sorry, Tamael and Jack Lunault are all killed. So, and that escape. And then later, Mellar comes back and does the whole taking Elayne captive.
Yeah. There's a lot of dark friends who don't get a lot of distinguishing features at this point.
Mm-hmm. I do forget that those are two different incidents, that there's an escape and then they come back and capture her.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of back and forth. I mean, there's only 3 books left, but like, my God, they are thick books. A lot happens.
They're thick books, and there's also some repetition in them
as
well, right? Yes. That's the thing that I've noticed is like there is a lot of like both repeating what happens in earlier books and then also just like, man, this thing with Mellar happens twice.
Yeah. Kind of like in this chapter, how we have like 2 different sets of dark friend women screaming at each other about who should defer to who. It's like, just now let's just repeat that beat just to drive the point home. And yeah, Mellar gets multiple chances to die or be killed, to kill or be killed.
And then, just the end of this chapter where she's got 9 out of 10 houses and she needs to figure out whether she is going to have to, fight to get the 10th.
Yeah, basically. Everyone reads the room, gives her the numbers, and she gets to end the chapter at a much more politically stable place than she started.
Mm-hmm. The siege is over. The siege of Camelin is over, right? And this is sort of the...
Yeah, there's just a little epilogue to her power play. That's it. We're
going to take a break, chill with Furyk Karid for the next chapter, and have a cup of coffee to wake us up. That's a really short chapter.
Cool.
And then we will do... That's just only a 3-page chapter for me, compared to a 6-page, this one.
Oh, and then, we're back to resolving Camelin stuff.
And then we'll resolve Camelin stuff.
And then we resolve some Matt stuff.
And then we do Karid again. Actually, Karid gets 2 chapters.
Oh, yeah. I love Karid. He's such a fun POV. Elayne drew a deep breath. Now she had 9 of the 10 houses needed. She was under no illusions. Whatever Sylvase's reasons, Lear and Carand were trying to salvage what they could by cutting themselves loose from a lost cause and hitching themselves to one that suddenly appeared to be rising. They would expect her to give them preferment for standing for her before she had the throne, while forgetting that they had ever supported Aramilla. She would do neither, but neither could she reject them out of hand. Trakand welcomes Baron. Never warmly, though. Never that. Trakand welcomes Anshar. Captain Gaibon, get the prisoners into the city as soon as you can. Armsmen for Karan, Baron, and Anshar will be restored their weapons and armor once the proclamations have been sent out, but they can have their banners back now. He saluted her and wheeled his bay, already shouting orders. As she heeled the grey toward Dylan, who was riding out of a side street, followed by Catelyn and the 3 young fools in their gilded armor, Sylvase, Lear, and Carand fell in behind her and Brigida. She felt no disquiet having them at her back, not with 100 guardswomen at theirs. They would be watched very closely until those proclamations were sent, including Sylvase. Elayne's mind was already casting itself ahead. You're awfully quiet, Brigida said softly. You've just won a great victory. And in a few hours, she replied, I'll learn whether I have to win another.
That was a fun way to come back.
Yay! Action chapter! Victory! Coup d'etat! Coup de grace!
Coup de grace, coup d'etat, whatever it is. Finishing up the Elayne secession plot. I mean, we have one more, but she's essentially done, right? That was the bulk of the finishing. She just has the next chapter where she
That's just a bit of wordplay.
Buttons up. That's a little wordplay. Yeah, there's a little bit of politics in that. I do think we might want to combine the next 2 chapters.
We might. But we don't need to subject our audience to that.
No, we'll have that discussion afterwards. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to be married. I'm so happy that the marriage is over. Or the wedding is over. The marriage has just begun. The wedding is over. Yeah. So happy the wedding's over.
Yeah. No, we've all been anticipating the post-wedding Seth. We are glad to have you back. Welcome to October.
It's amazing. I really do feel like about 2.5 years ago, I started a new job and a new career, and my brain was trying to figure that out. And then about a year ago, I started getting married, and my brain was trying to figure that out. And this is the first time it almost feels like 2.5 years when I don't have some major new life-changing stress event going on. I'm not moving, I'm not changing jobs, I'm not getting married, I'm not doing something that's going to pull a huge percentage of my time and attention. And that probably means it's time to hyperfixate on a new hobby. So we'll see. Stay tuned for whatever new hobby, Seth, or maybe an old hobby. I may get back into the crocheting or the brewing, or probably not the brewing because I'm not drinking. But it's not ADHD, it's autism. Come on.
ADHD is about to be scientifically defined.
I know, I'm sure. Although I am definitely about 3 conversations away from convincing Never that she has a little bit of autism and that her hyperfocus is people.
I worked on her at the wedding, for fuck's sake. She like told me something and I'm like, that's very autism coded of you. And she just looked at me.
Because we've been having this discussion. She's like, I'm not autistic, I'm social. I'm like, what if people are your special interest?
Yeah, that's like a massive contingent.
Right. Because the thing is, you're not just social. You know crazy amount of details about people you interact with on a level that people who are just social don't bother learning. You study everybody in your life in a way that is not normal.
Yeah. Except within our circles, because we're cool and flocking together.
Because we're cool. Yeah. Yeah. And she's like, oh. And now we've been like pointing out little things and she's like, fuck. And then, yeah. And she's highly ADHD, right? And so that's very probability for a little bit of autism to go, those go together.
I mean, we don't have a good idea of the difference between autism and ADHD, really. Like, science has a very poor understanding of what these things are, much less how they are different. Are they different? No one fucking knows. So, like, you know,
right.
All we know is that you two had a fantastic wedding and seem like you're going to be very happily married. So everyone can do the math themselves on that.
Well, and then the other thing is, like, Never's dad, super autistic. Autism, super genetic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a man who, like, 3D prints me fidget spinners.
Yeah. Feathers, birds, flocks.
Yeah. As a way of, like, trying to interact and be his. Then he wants to play, board games. That's his, like, those are the ways he wants to interact. And I'm like, and such a nerd. Such a nerd.
That's fantastic. Well, we're all very glad to have you back. It'll be interesting to finish up this book and all the summer energy and move on into, like, the darker times of year and the first Sanderson book and, like, we're back after a whole break and it's just like,
I know. So I've been, like I said, I've been doing the Sanderson books. There's going to be a whole different way of talking about the Sanderson books, I think, than
oh my God. For real, though.
Because he doesn't hide things in the same way that Jordan does. And there's just going to be a lot of, oh my God, Brandon. It's like, it's not going to be as positive, I think, as some of the other episodes.
We're going to have to get some rants out of the way and then just be like, refer back to the rant. We're not going into it again now.
Right. We're not getting into it again right now.
It's going to be a whole thing.
Because I got to the Matt. And the thing is, like, there's the Matt's backstory chapter, right? But that's actually only like 3 pages at the beginning of one chapter. And it's dumb and it's stupid. And he very quickly meets Varen where he doesn't need to write the backstories, right? And then we can forget about it.
Yep. We're going to be doing a lot more like I never let a page go by without highlights. I think that's going to happen once we get to the Sanderson books. I'm going to actually be letting whole pages go by without seeing anything I need to comment on in a way that I cannot with Jordan.
Right. Yeah, because I think there's just going to be a lot of details that what I find is, yes, Sanderson will give you the same details, but then at the end of the chapter, he tells you what those details mean. And so there's a lot less mystery to it because we'll be like, so as he says at the end of the chapter, this is what's going on. Like,
but all that is in the future. But it feels like a much closer future now that we're past our break. That month-long break was huge.
Huge, right? And now we're a couple of chapters away from the end of book 11, some of which we're thinking about merging, right? Because we have these 2 really short Furyk Kareed chapters, right? I bet we could combine the next 2 and then probably the 2 after that, which means there's maybe 3-4 episodes left in this book. Yeah. And then we're done with Jordan.
Yeah. And we'll be done.
We've got New Spring.
It's
yeah.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, you don't have a big thing to anticipate anymore, but the transitions are going to still keep coming hard and fast.
Yeah, they are.
Which, speaking of transitions, happy equinox. We're actually recording this not in
Yes.
October. We're recording this in September. Equinox just happened, so we're officially into Northern Hemisphere fall.
It is now darker than it is light. I'm beginning to pick up that up in the mornings.
Yeah.
I can tell because when I get up in the morning, it's dark when I go to work. And I get to work in the dark.
Yep, we have now crossed back into the other side of the year where the darkness is predominant, except for all of our lovely people down in Australia and other places. But mostly I'm thinking of antipodes. Little Jen.
The three of you in Antarctica.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, let's turn off recordings.
All right,
I think that is going to be enough pain in the ass to edit.
That is going to be a chaotic episode. Welcome back to us.
Yep. 2 hours on the knot.
There we go.
I mean, I don't think you have to stop bitching about your phone just because we turned on recording. I think that's...
What is fun about my phone is that anyone who's seen my old phone knows that I had this really cool wooden case Travis and I had gotten for each other like years ago. And yeah, they're really, really cool. And so one of the reasons I didn't want to transition phones, aside from the fact that I hate change, is that I wouldn't get to have that case anymore. And so Brandon literally went on Etsy and like found another company because and there was also some spatial things where the lip on it wasn't tall enough to actually let the screen protector be protected. It was a whole thing. So I needed a slightly different case, but I wanted the same vibe of like a wood burl with like marine epoxy and paint pigment all swirled through it, like that. And he found me a company of people who were doing the same thing and had the model of phone that I was getting and like got that for me. And so I have like, it's still a blue paint, unique woodcut phone. It's just slightly bigger with a different pattern, and it's big now. Like literally there's so much storage. My old phone was so stuffed to the gills, and now it's like 23% full.
Nice.
It's just like,
nice.
This is why I need a new phone. I just hate change so much. But speaking of change, Mr. Tolson, how is it to be back in the podcasting realm?
Oh, very nice. I definitely miss talking into the microphone every week. That's it's funny how you sort of, it feels like it's a connection with the bigger world in a way that when I'm not doing it, I feel like I'm missing it. And I think it's the same satisfaction that most people get out of social media, right? They post about social media, interact with people, and like, this is my social media, right? Like, I long ago left Facebook, and Instagram is, I haven't posted a picture on there in years and years and years. And so for my way, interacting with the world really is talking into this microphone. And that's how I feel like I'm part of the internet, and the part of the internet that is the wider world, right? Like, and so without it, there's this weird feeling of disconnect, where I feel like somehow the world's passing me by when I'm not screaming into a microphone. It's weird and it's odd, and I didn't realize that I would feel that way until I took a longer break to do why did I take that break again? Can you remind me?
Like there was this camping trip out in the woods,
that's right.
And I got to hang out with Morgan,
right,
and her wife, and then Neil and Amanda were there.
Right.
It got really cold at night, but like we had a good time, and that was it. It was a camping trip.
No, wasn't there something right before the camping trip?
Oh, I remember. There was a cake.
There was a couple of thing cake. Yes,
cake.
Yeah.
That was good.
That was good. Before that, I remember some speeches.
Some people might have said some things. They were dressed really nice. The people were all dressed to the nines. There was really nice table settings. There was a tent.
Oh, right. I got married.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
There was a tent.
There was a tent. Yeah, there was a big tent. I got married.
You got married.
So I'm extremely excited to announce. That's why, obviously, we weren't on. I don't think we hid that from anybody. I think it was pretty obvious thing that was right out front and center. We are on break because Seth's getting married. Which was a lot of fun. I mean, we did a lot of the planning ourselves, which I got to tell you is both awesome and awful at the same time, right? Like, it was awesome because we got to customize. It felt like we had our friends really came out to support us. There was a lot less stress in terms of not dealing with vendors and their issues and whether or not they're going to show up. Like, there was just a lot of very nice things that we didn't have to deal with. However, and we'd have to spend nearly as much money, right, as we would have if we'd had a lot of vendors. However, doing it all yourself means that at the end of the wedding, on Sunday, when everyone else has gone home, you still have to clean up. Yeah. And I may have hurt my back a little bit doing that. I don't know. It's just, I overdid it. Me and Never both were like, thought we had it almost done, and then sort of on Sunday we realized, oh man, we have more cleanup than we thought we did. So Sunday ended up being tough. But man, the wedding was amazing. I am so happy with what we did. I'm so happy with, huge shout out to Travis who did the ceremony, which was amazing. Absolutely fucking amazing.
Fantastic.
Amanda,
also, that jacket.
That jacket, yeah, oh yeah. He was dressed better than anybody. Except maybe Matt, my brother-in-law, who was dressed ridiculously well.
There was a lot of dapper coming from that contingent.
Yeah, great vows. A huge shout out to Amanda, who did.
Yes.
Yeah, basically took on the role of wedding planner for free. Just volunteered.
She marshaled the forces and managed that battle. Mm-hmm. Like she was Matt Cawthoning all over it.
Yeah, she stepped up. I asked for her help a little bit later into the process, so we sort of had a lot of the preliminary planning done. But then we were like, "Hey, Amanda, help us figure out what we haven't figured out." And she was like, "Okay, here's a list of things you haven't figured out and need to address."
And then day of, she was managing everything. Like literally, the fields of Marylor were less organized than what was happening.
It was she was Elayne in that situation. Yeah, Mahale of ceremonies. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
I don't think I could have done it without Amanda taking the helm when she did and stepping up and doing the work that she did when she did. Which is not definitely like her and Neil did a ton of work. Never's, I'm not going to list off all the people in Never's family who, went above and beyond because you guys don't know them. But
yeah. Brandon also ended up getting quite involved because I got recruited to go off with you and Liesl at that one point. And then I come back and Brandon is elbows deep in putting the lighting up on the tent because he just couldn't stand watching people do it wrong. So he was like, God, let me in there. I'm an engineer. And putting up all the lights.
And I depend on having that level of friends who are like, no, we have to do this right. And amazingly, so much was done just absolutely perfectly. And then we had to emergency move the venue. Well, not the venue, but we had everything all set up, all the chairs set up down on the lawn. And then Oregon was like, you know what I'm going to do? Rain.
Really randomly is rain. And so then we had to everyone in their nice clothes is carefully dragging chairs up into the tent and then wiping them all down because they're covered in grass. Oh my God. It was a labor of love.
It was. It certainly was.
A major labor of love. And it was definitely hilarious to be like, you guys are throwing a party for all of us and yourselves. And also you're the focal point. God damn.
And it's a big party. Yeah.
It was a big party. It was a big party and a beautiful venue. The outdoor camping wedding, everyone should do an outdoor camping wedding. I don't understand why anyone would do an indoor wedding at a hotel. Go camping. It's vastly superior.
Yeah. It made all the decorating easier because it was just natural, beautiful backgrounds. It made the fact that the people who didn't want to spend a lot of money could just pop a tent. Right?
Yeah, it was great.
And you didn't have to get a hotel or any of that kind of crap. You have to be. So a lot of people did get Airbnbs nearby or stayed in a hotel nearby.
But yeah, I got to camp in the same campsite with Liesl. We got to talk and hang out.
That was fantastic.
Have, a bottle of tequila and a box of beer just sitting on our shared campsite bench and just we just got to have that whole separate little vibe as just as you do at any camping party. And it was just a very nice piece of the socializing to have that smaller little bubble off tucked away behind these blackberry bushes with Liesl and her friend.
Yep. Yeah. And Liesl, if you don't remember, is the one who's made my water cloak. And she did one guest appearance early on in the show. And I did a terrible job with the sound on that episode, so sorry. Sorry, Liesl. Early on when I was learning lessons about recording multiple people and how to do that, I just had us both sit near equal distance from the microphone, and we're both terrible. We both sound awful. So yeah.
But yeah, it was really good to get to meet her and hang out with her in person and get to talk about sewing machines and all kinds of stuff, which everyone who has been listening to the feed will have heard at this point in the timeline by the time this episode gets published, a teaser for my new podcast, Used to Sew, which is all about sewing machines. So I've had sewing machines on the brain, and Liesl is all about sewing machines. And so even though we exist in very different worlds within that, it was very fun to get to indulge in that hyper focus that had nothing to do with the wedding whatsoever. It was just a random coincidence of hyper focus, and that was very cool.
Combine that with, the Wheel of Time hyper focus.
Well, yes, and then there is that for sure. The common baseline. But no, I mean, really, there was only 6 people there who knew about Wheel of Time. Everyone else was like there for other reasons.
Yeah, right. But actually, there's more people there who had read Wheel of Time than right? Like, the father and mother of the groom have both read Wheel of Time and know all about it, right? They're not the big fans that we are, but they are. When I was like, oh, I know I do this thing on the Wheel of Time, they're like, oh yeah, we've read that. And just there's a bunch of other people who were there who have at one point or another, I've talked to them, like, oh yeah, we've read Wheel of Time. We're just not fans of it the way you people are.
You people. Yeah, no, and I actually watched parts of the video today. I finally got around to watching parts of the wedding ceremony, and of course I watched my part first because I'm a narcissist. And the amount of people who were laughing at my Wheel of Time references was way more widespread throughout the body of the group than I thought it was. I thought it was just a few people, but where the camera microphone was positioned, I could hear the whole crowd. I was like, oh shit, there's people laughing in a complete all the way around. There are people chuckling.
Well, and of the people who, certainly the people who don't know about Wheel of Time that know me know about my love of Wheel of Time.
That, yes.
Yeah. So there is it's entirely possible that they were laughing about that, and they know that you're my podcast co-host, and there's the connection there of
But it was still surprising.
Really funny. Well, and man,
more of you knew about this than I thought.
People were laughing. I was so happy with the speeches. Oh my God, we had 5-6 speeches, and they were all just great. So every once in a while you go to an event and someone speaks and you're like, ooh, who let him up there? And we didn't have one of those, which was great.
No, everyone was great.
Everyone was fantastic. Everyone hated Falling Maria. I think my vows were really good. I think the vows,
they were fantastic.
The vows written on both sides were amazing. I really enjoyed those.
Oh my God, it was so great. I loved getting to be part of that, and getting to be on stage with you and just watching Never and her whole cohort responding to you was just you're reading your vows and just like clockwork, each one of the 9 bridesmaids are just sniffing in order, just they were all being destroyed by your vows, and it was just so precious and so lovely.
Never has so many friends. Well, first of all, she's got 3 sisters and a brother, right? So there's 4 sisters total, right? And then best friends that she makes very easily because she is a lovable person. So yeah, she had a bunch of people up there who wanted to support her.
Right, and then I got to meet Chloe, who, the whole "that bitch is always late" connection was aha! Now I have a face to put to the voice. This is good. This is excellent. Hello.
Yep. Yeah, and that was one of my favorite parts about the wedding is just how many people I was able to get together in my life. I mean, I had people from college show up, which is for me, some people college. For me, I mean that was 20 plus years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was 2004 that I graduated. So. Having college friends willing to come back after all this time, to family, to the Wheel of Time people, to the people from work, right? I had some work folks show up, to Never's friends that I've made and that are here, and it's crazy to look at all these slices of my life come together, and I had no idea how to mask among all those people from different parts of my past. Yeah, it was very, very difficult because I didn't know which. So I just put on the I Love Never mask and stuck with that one,
which is all anyone wanted to see.
Mm-hmm. But it was. I did find it hard to interact with some of my friends from college because there's certain things that I don't do. I don't drink anymore, and they were the people that I drank with, and they don't really drink anymore because they have kids, but we still kind of talk about drinking together because that's what we did together. So it's weird and hard to do. And then I'm like, oh yeah, you have teenagers, right? What's that like?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the trippy thing about getting married at your age is you have a lot more of your life have happened. You have a lot more slices of life to bring together, and also everyone else has similarly added so many slices. If you get married in your mid-20s or whatever, in theory you have less, but you are not in your mid-20s. Yeah, a lot of people look, Never's coming out. She's got a lot of friends who are going to get married in the next couple of years, and they graduated from college at 22. They found someone they love.
And they've been with them for 4 or 5 years after college, and they decided it's time to, a lot of people do that. They get out of college, find or in college, find somebody who they love, and then they kind of have like the college friends, the family, and maybe a little bit of slice of life after that, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like that's enough slices. I have a lot of life that happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, thanks, honey.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Tolson.
Hello, Miss Tolson, everybody says. She shows off the ring.
Love you.
Love you. No one's seeing video because I haven't actually shared video. My bad. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. What the fuck else? You guys all fed us great, too. I will say.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Obviously the cakes were fucking divine. Obviously. Like, holy shit. But, like, the rest of the food was good, too. Like, you fed us well.
Yeah.
Which was nice.
We tried to. And, we tried to make sure that there was enough food for everybody and enough booze for everybody to at least have a good time. I don't think there was... we ran out of beer pretty early. I think we could have bought more beer. I think we could have bought more seltzers. But there was plenty of wine, we didn't run out of alcohol for sure.
No, I definitely had too many of those margaritas. That's what.
Yeah. Oh, never made those pre-mixed drinks. Oof. So, yeah, we did our best to just make it an easy wedding for people to go enjoy it.
And I loved your little guest book thing with
you.
The Polaroid, and then the I'm just like, God damn it, I want to get married again. There's so many cool ideas here.
Never thought of that one, because we have the Polaroid camera, so we just bought a bunch of extra film. And so, yeah, everyone took a snap. We asked people to snap a selfie with the Polaroid, put it in the guest book, and then write a message next to it.
Oh my God. And then, so I had the hardest time figuring out how to use them because I was literally like 6 years old the last time I used one. And Brandon and Neil were like ganging up on me to make fun of me for like being confused about how to put the new cartridge in. And then the picture I ended up taking, I looked like the most triple-chinned fucking asshole monster ever. Like, it was such a fucking like disaster. Like, so you're welcome.
I love it. It's my favorite. And then what Never's been doing is like, she's taken our vows and put them in the guest book, like the note cards we wrote them on, and like a bunch of other sort of mementos from the wedding, because the guest book only ended up filling up the first like 30 pages. It's a big guest book, and it's probably the first third of it's maybe full of notes and pictures and stuff. So adding all the other stuff to the end, we have this really nice notebook that we then get to keep as a memento and look through for the wedding. On top of the video, right, we've got a really good video, about an hour long, of the ceremony. A lot of people took pictures and have uploaded them, and also we've got professional photos still being processed. So I haven't seen those yet, but I'm looking forward to those.
Yeah, I definitely am looking forward to those. It was just getting to see the procession come down the hill and like all that. It's just like, oh yeah, that's what we look like. Mm-hmm. And like, I saw the whole like, photography like sessions going down, and I loved how your guys' color scheme was just a riot of color. It was fantastic. My brother went for rainbow. That was their theme for their wedding, so everyone was wearing like rainbow themed stuff, but you guys went with a different kind of rainbow. It was just this like midsummer wildflower like bouquet sort of thing, and it was lovely.
It was supposed to be a theme of sort of a green, lavender, and burnt orange, right? Sort of just like pastel versions of those were kind of what we asked people to wear. But like, there's enough variation in that. Like, some people went with more of like a burgundy, some people went with more of an orange, the green, some people went with more of a blue green. Like, so when you looked at all the colors, it was this sort of actually very almost Aes Sedai display.
Yeah.
Like, the bridesmaids had like, well, there were 7 bridesmaids. Actually, we should go back and look. I bet there's like odd colors on the bridesmaids. I bet we could assign, because obviously Never was in white.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of purples. There was a lot of purples and oranges, which
sure.
are 2 colors Jordan didn't use for the Ajas.
Remember, orange is just light brown.
Yeah, sure, whatever. I got a lot of compliments on my choice of green, which was 100% Travis. Like, the first one was like, "Hey, Travis, what do you think I should wear?" He's like, "You should wear green. You should wear this exact shade of green. I think that would look really good with the color of your hair." And I got exactly that, because never question a gay man when he tells you what to wear. And I got so many freaking compliments on that exact shade of green. And I was just like, it's all Travis. Look at the man in the black silk brocade jacket of glory. Like, he told me to dress this way. I take no responsibility.
And he was with me for every step of the way in my suit picking decision.
And you looked absolutely dapper, and Never just looked fucking
gorgeous.
radiant.
Oh yeah, never was gorgeous. Yeah.
And Timber managed to hold his shit together for at least the first third of the ceremony before like completely melting down and needing to go take a nap. That poor puppy.
He didn't understand why everyone wasn't giving him attention and giving him treats.
And mom and dad are super stressed out and super busy, and like he had to make a scene and be the most upset about the wedding of everyone. Like, nobody in the human family had any serious drama, but my God, Timber had enough drama for everyone.
You know what? I barely even heard it. I was so focused on the ceremony that, like, I sort of, like, did a little thing at the beginning, and then, like, I was kind of like, oh, yeah, I think he's whining a little bit. But, like, I totally tuned it out at that point.
Yeah, no, for sure. You were very focused on more important things, like the absolute angel you were marrying.
But yeah, it's been nice. But now that we're married, people are like, well, what's it like being married? I'm like, pretty much exactly the same. But there is a certain amount of, I guess my whole life, you sort of grow up and you're always having this idea of like, who am I going to end up with? What's my, you're sort of always on the lookout. There's a side eye. Even when you're in like a permanent relationship, it's not a big side eye, but you're always sort of considering like, is this a relationship I need to get out of? Is this, you're always evaluating it on that level. And now there's just no pressure, right? And there's this weird part of my brain that's always been considering, like, how do I find somebody permanent? I don't have to do that anymore, right?
How many spoons have you regained that you just have always had devoted to something else?
Right. There's a certain amount of weight getting off that you didn't even know you had. Timber's in the room, in case you can't hear.
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah, no, for sure. It's like... I mean, I'm a big believer in try before you buy. Like, getting married should not be a massive upheaval to like your daily existence. But like, yeah, it does take a load off to be like, well, now that's done. I have checked that off my to-do list. Massive dopamine hit, like, yeah.
People are asking about the name change. I am still definitely getting used to that. Are you done, Tim? No. He waits for me to start talking before he's making his noise.
He needs to be the center of attention.
Can you guys see him down there?
Yeah. He's lying on the floor, absolutely unbothered.
Just this is always when he makes noise. He's always on his back like this.
Silly
Timber.
Boy. You know you've been cartoonified, right, doggo?
Oh yeah, definitely. Timber. But that's his happy noise. That's like when he's happy, he just rolls around making that noise. Oh yeah, changing the name. Let's go get into changing the name. What a fucking pain in the ass. Just getting started on the process. Even though the process is pretty easy, right? Like, it's just so many steps with so many different agencies. And then on top of that, just like, my email's my old name. Do I keep the Gmail account? No, I've got a new one. How do I migrate all that stuff over, right? I am finding the migrating of the name is a death by 1,000 cuts. It's a pain in the ass because so many things are tied to your name.
Right. Like, I've been bitching about how changing my phone has been a pain in the ass. Yeah. And when I changed my name, I was 18. So I really didn't have that many things that I was attached to. I can only imagine.
Ugh. I mean, Jacobson will be with me for the rest of my life. I will never leave that name behind.
It's impossible.
It's really impossible. Yeah. However, I'm kind of excited to stop being mistaken for somebody who's Jewish.
Sure.
It's like, I know that's like a terrible reason to want to change your name, but like so often, I just had a realization that I was put with my college roommate because they thought he was Jewish and they thought I was too. Like I realize this now 20 years later that was something that was done because of my last name. And it's like, that feels wrong. Like, I was invited to a lot of bar mitzvahs when I was 13. I've also had some anti-Semitic shit slung in my face because people thought I was Jewish, right? Like, and they were using what they thought was a button point. But like, just having a name that is so very, very Jewish was very weird for me and felt like, stolen valor type situation.
Yeah. Because it's like not your culture. Like,
it's not my culture
not
at
in any
all.
sense.
Yeah, and not in the slightest, I remember even Amanda, when she met me, the first thing she asked me was, "Oh, are you Jewish?" I was like, "No."
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Like, the name Seth Jacobson screams
Jewish. Right, and I'm
Absolutely.
a brown hair. I've got, I had curly brown hair, brown eyes, a decently pointy nose, right? Like, all of the features that are stereotypical. Yeah, anyway, like, it's such a weird thing that people associate with me all the time that I've sort of, because it wasn't true, it took me a long time to realize it was even happening.
Sure. Yeah. 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 I mean, why would you be aware of that if you have no Jewishness in your culture? Why would you be cued into that?
Right. Right.
You're going to have to learn it from that outside inference. And yeah, no, I can definitely see where you have had a serious lack of, I mean, everyone has a lack of agency over their name. Like, we all start out with a stock name that someone else gave us. There's no agency.
Right.
But even more than most people, you are really like gaining some agency by not just taking a new name, but like inventing your own name, like, which is so cool. It's just so cool that you're like, no, I am completely undoing this weird feeling and starting over.
I Jordanized our names, right?
Did.
Look at what he did in Origins. He took a bunch of names, smushed them together, changed some vowels, and that was how he named things. And I was like, oh, what if I do that to our last names? I'll take Ritalik and Jacobson and take the Tal, take the Tall and the Son, smush them together. Let's Tolson. Let me change the vowels around like Jordan does. Tolson.
Yeah, no, it's...
Right, I Jordanized our last names.
It's fantastic. It's very, very cool and unique. Though I do think
and I'm very happy with it.
You missed out on Jackalak. I think Travis is right that Jackalak would have been amazing.
The Jackalak was on... I mean... I argued for it. I will be perfectly honest. I argued for it. I said we should do this. It would be awesome. People would always remember our names. And everyone was like, no, that's funny. That's a funny joke. And I was like, no. Like, let's go out on a limb here and let's try for it. Let's see what the consequences of Jackalak would be. It was no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It was shot down so fast. Well, I mean, because at some point when you're thinking of last names, right, you go off the deep end for a while.
No, yeah, for sure. You're throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks.
Everything at the wall to see what sticks, right? There was all sorts of combinations. There was new names. There was emotions. And it was particularly hard with Never's first name being Never, because then any sort of word you have to associate, well, what happens if you put Never before it?
Yeah.
Also looking at, like, initials, right? Making sure you're not doing anything weird with the initials. Mm-hmm. Spelling out anything odd.
Yeah. No, I know someone recently who just had to get rid of a last name idea because it would have made their initials KKK. And they were like, oh,
shit, no.
Well, that's categorically not going to happen then.
I like that Nevers is INT for either intelligence or integer, depending on how nerdy you are or what kind of nerdy you are.
Yeah, no, that appeals to multiple factions of the nerddoms.
I've got SJT, which doesn't really do anything unless you like make the S an integral and the J,
social justice
JT, yeah,
traitor?
Yeah. Oh, so sure. if I changed to a W last name, I could have been SJW, social justice warrior. But
well.
But my short initials ST. I mean street.
Yeah, no, that's fun. That's fun. I mean, my initials are AF. Like, that's my short initials is AF. I love that.
You're a Radia AF, that's for sure.
Yes. Pedia AF.
Oh, Saint, ST, Saint.
Yeah.
Saint Julian.
Yeah, names are hard. As we've established on this podcast, names are hard, but...
And that's why we're spending so much talking about this one.
Yeah, but you powered through.
And Never's really excited to have a name that no one's ever going to really misspell, or mispronounce, I mean.
Yes, given her last name.
Yeah.
Her name was... I mean, I know how it goes. You have your whole little song and dance. You have to roll it every time you meet someone, and now... It's a different, shorter, less complicated song and dance.
We still have to we're going to have to spell it for people.
Yeah,
Tolson,
people are going to be... is going to be...
And the double L. Toll, people like one L or two.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, my maiden name had one of those little distinguishes. It's like, I don't now. Now I have a very simple last name that has no variations. It's nice.
And this last name feels a little more Swedish to me, I think, than our previous. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the SEN is very Swedish, very Scandinavian. Yeah.
And that's something that both me and Never have in our background. Is like, I think my mother is half Swedish, and I think she's got some like Irish Swedish or her too. results. So that's sort of the one thing that I feel like we shared in common, which is a good way to sort of anchor that name in the Swedish tradition.
It sounds like an old name, but it's actually a new name. But it is in the spirit of an old name.
Of an old name,
yeah. Yeah, no, I love it.
And because it's a new name, I bought Tolson.com, which means you can now email me, Seth@Tolson.com, if you want to get a hold of me. And I'll be able to buy that for the kids. The kids will have their name at Tolson.com.
Oh, we're being corrected by a nerd. Son is Swedish, Sen is Danish Norwegian. That actually makes sense because I have a Sen in my family and they are Danish. So that Scandinavia's all the same, right?
Right, yeah. According to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a bunch of tiny little isolated communities separated by absolute murderous nature that like each developed their own cultures.
Which is funny. The Jacob son, the S-O-N, doesn't come from the Swedish part of my heritage. It comes from my dad's side, where he was adopted. And I don't even know where it comes from.
I mean, there's a lot of people who have brought the concept of being a son of Jacob into their naming conventions across the centuries.
For some reason.
It's permutated a lot of different ways through various European cultures.
Fair enough, yeah. Yeah, so I really don't know the origin of that name. And, it's funny, both of our fathers were adopted, right?
Both of your fathers were adopted?
Both of our fathers were adopted.
Oh, shit. Yeah. I didn't know that about her.
Yeah.
That's bonkers.
So both of us don't, it's like long name family tradition of one generation,
Right, yeah, whereas I took on a family name that, I've managed to follow it back in the genealogy quite a ways, or it just literally comes from the UK, which is cool. It's been around. But yeah, no, having it just start like that is, it makes sense for you guys to just be like, nah, real square zero. None of the square one shit. Square zero.
Yeah, square zero. Which, I mean, I guess if everyone keeps resetting, we'll never get anywhere. But,
This is how names have always been created.
That's true.
It's like, you can argue about if numbers are discovered or invented. There is no such argument about names. Names are 100% invented. It's all arbitrary. So, yay, agency.
Oh, that is an interesting debate. Is math discovered or invented?
I love listening to people argue about it because it's so far beyond my ability to comprehend. I'm just like, whatever the most compelling argument I heard last is probably correct. Like, I know this about myself. Like,
because natively, I would say math is discovered. But once you get into the edges of where math kind of fails and is like defined as like self-contradictory, it's really interesting to be like, no, this is an invention by people and it's flawed, just like people are flawed.
Yeah.
And so I really love math, and I really think it is something that's natural and discovered, and the rules are sort of self-referential in a way that always works, but once you get past a certain point, math is philosophy.
Yeah, one of my grandfathers is deeply involved in the philosophical edges of defining measurements. How do we know when we've measured something, and what is a meter? And like, he is like deep off in the philosophical deep end of that stuff, and like goes to conferences and presents papers with titles that I cannot parse. Like, it's weird shit.
I think the first time I ever really felt that deep is when someone said, okay, I was in class and they said, okay, measure with this ruler. And I said, okay, it's, between these two marks. And they said, okay, now give me a more exact. Well, I need a more exact ruler. And it's the idea that, like, no matter how exact your ruler is, it's always going to be between two marks. It's never going to be exactly at one of those marks.
Yeah. And if you're studying quantum mechanics, that's a very significant problem.
Right.
Yeah. Or astronomy. I mean, honestly, the other way around, too. But
I mean, actually, if you're studying quantum mechanics, that's actually a real feature of it.
Sure. Yeah. But it's why it's confusing. And it's like, no, but like, did we invent this or did we discover it? Because shit's getting a little frayed down here.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about just, I mean, space and time seem to be emergent phenomenon. They don't seem to be fundamental.
Right. Which is like, you think on that very hard and you start feeling like you're on 3 hits of acid. Like,
right. Because wait. Time is not real. Just my perception. I just perceive it because I exist inside a universe, but it's most likely an emergent phenomenon of entropy. Like, wait, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, it's like, I am going to go eat some ice cream now.
Yeah.
Get grounded in my body because what the fuck was that? Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. WoTSpoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.